All right, here's our video today, the digestive system. And I'm sure we're all familiar with this system, right? Because we eat food, we digest our foods, right? Digestive system gives us energy, gives us nutrients. It's also called the GI tract. So here we go, get a little yellow in today. So the GI, not government issue, not a soldier. The GI tract is what it's called. That's a digestive system. And GI is gastro, a little fancy word, gastrointestinal. So the gastrointestinal system, if you want to call it that, is just the digestive system, the GI tract. And gastro is just fancy for stomach. That's what it means. And of course, we know inside the stomach, to help digest your food, you have, what do you have? Gastric acid. Powerful stuff, which is just hydrochloric acid. That's all it is. Very powerful acid. So where does this start? You know where it starts. The digestive system starts in the mouth. When you see your food, you eat your food, whatever you're eating steak, cheeseburger, maybe you're a vegetarian, you're having broccoli, who knows what you're having, fettuccine alfredo. It starts in the mouth, and it starts by chewing. Make sure you chew your food, very important. And that chewing, by the way, is mechanical energy. So write that over here, mechanical energy. And mechanical energy, by the way, is just a form of kinetic energy. Which is the energy of movement. The energy of movement. So in this process, you need chemical energy to use mechanical energy, to use your muscles to chew. So you have mechanical energy involved, you have chemical energy involved. But for chewing, that process, breaking down large chunks of food to smaller chunks of food, is mechanical energy. All right, let's get a clean page, because also part of this is saliva. We have to talk about saliva. And here's the organs. Here's the map of the digestive system. Why don't we use red? So we know step one starts in the mouth. And we know in the mouth we have saliva. Your glands that have that saliva. Salivary glands. And saliva is very important. And not for spitting, right? But saliva, it's digestive juice. And it starts working even before you put the food in your mouth, right? When you see food, when you smell food, your mouth is going to secrete saliva. It's very powerful. It's getting ready. Your brain's saying, oh, I smell food. I see food. Let's eat. And there's some important things about saliva also, right? So it reduces infections in the mouth. Any infections you might have from eating food. So that's important. Your gums and your teeth. Saliva helps neutralize the acids in food. So all this is happening when you're chewing. Also moistens food. Moistens the food. So it's easier to swallow. So go down to the esophagus. And it also shields the esophagus from irritants. So very important with that saliva. And so here's the esophagus, that's number 2. It's now the movement of the food. And here's a fancy word I'll put underneath esophagus, but I'll change it. I'll use purple. Why not? So peristalsis. You might have heard that word. Maybe not. Fancy word. See if I can fit it in here. Peristalsis. have to write it again. I'll write it over here again. Peristalsis. I want to say it a few times. Peristalsis. Peristalsis. And peristalsis is just contraction. It's the relaxing and contracting of muscles in the GI tract to help push food down. So peristalsis, bring the arrow over here. It's contracting and relaxing of muscles to push the food down. And of course, every time you eat, this is happening. Peristalsis. And when you chew your food, it's very important. You have a fold over your windpipe. Over here, there's a fold over your windpipe that folds over when you chew. It's like a lid. It's the epiglottis. So it's not in the picture, but I'll write it here. The epiglottis. That's why it's important to chew. So when you're chewing your food, the epiglottis will fold over. So you shouldn't laugh so much when you're eating or chew fast or just gulp your food down. No, just chew, right? So again, peristalsis, contracting, relaxing of the muscles so it can go into your esophagus. So now we have our journey. The food's coming down. And of course, now it's going to enter the most famous organ, the stomach. Let's clear this out so we can talk more about the stomach. And why don't we use green? So in the stomach, right over here in the stomach, we know, right? The food, we're going to mix food, the stomach is, mix food with that acid I talked about earlier, gastric acid, hydrochloric acid. So the hydrochloric acid is going to break it down, and it's going to make this thing called chyme. It's spelled this way, by the way, but it's pronounced, ready? Chyme. And it's just a thick liquid. It's just that thick liquid of food and digestive juices. And that chyme, so don't say chime, it's that chyme. Here's that chyme in green over here. It's going to go into the small intestine, the next part of it. And small intestine is very important because 95% or more of all nutrients, it's a lot, all the nutrients you need from your food, 95% happens in the small intestines, are absorbed in the small intestines and released. Guess where it's released? Into the bloodstream. So all the nutrients you had from that food, it's broken down finally in the stomach. It's going into the small intestines and will enter into the bloodstream. All right, and now the next part is the large intestine. But of course, there's other organs involved. You don't see the pancreas, it's behind that stomach over there. But over here, this one is your liver, a very important organ. So the liver is going to make bile. And that bile is going to help digest fats. So it helps digest fats and other nutrients. So the liver is making bile for it. It will store the bile in the gallbladder. And the rest of the food will be sent again into the small intestines. The pancreas also, which is not seen in the picture, they're going to have enzymes released from the pancreas to break down carbs and proteins also. Now let me clear this out. Go back if you need to. One thing about the pancreas also is important is it's going to release insulin. And this is vital, right? Because your cells need glucose. So when all these nutrients that are being released into the bloodstream, it's going to release it as glucose. It's a sugar. It's the sugar the body prefers. And once the pancreas realizes there's glucose in your bloodstream, it's going to release insulin. Because if this is with your cell, remember you have over 30 trillion cells, they need sugar, they need glucose. So insulin, and I'm just oversimplifying it here, pretend that's insulin over here. Insulin is going to open the door for the cells. So, and we'll pretend glucose is in purple. So all that glucose enters the cell and enters the mitochondria, and you can make ATP, adenosine triphosphate, which you don't really need to know now, but that's what the body wants for energy. So the pancreas is involved in the digestive system for sending out that insulin so the cells can receive that glucose. All right, now in the large intestines, this is where our gut bacteria hide. And remember, like I said, we had 30 trillion cells in our body. We have more bacteria in us. We're born with this bacteria. And bacteria is vital because it helps break down any other nutrients we have in our food, does many other things that we're learning. And also, we'll be able to formulate vitamin K. So bacteria does a large role in the large intestines. And of course, in the large intestines is where stool is formed, and it's going to be released in the excretory system, working together. Think of the excretory system as the garbage collectors, grabbing that waste, throwing it out, and I'm sure it's thrown out through the rectum and released. So that's just a basic overview of the digestive system. Time to eat.